Hey, everybody, our inaugural show. So exciting. We've been looking forward to this. Steve Vanderbiden, my dear friend, and I have had a monthly show on survivor rights that we figured, we talk about communication and things that the whole world needs to know about. So we're just going to expand this a little bit and do it weekly and air directly to my personal Facebook page as well. And we'll be figuring out how to get it over to YouTube here in a little bit. But technology is not my friend all the time. Anyway, hello, everybody out there. Let us know you're out there if you would. I'll be checking comments on both my live personal page as well as on Survivor Rights. So if you're out there, give us a shout out. We always love to see who's on and talk to you in multiple ways. Okay, so we are gonna today. For those of you who don't know, on a personal level, we have a huge show on survivor rights going on today, and it is all about asking questions, and it's helping people ask better questions. But it really is, hi Mardell, asking better questions is life changing. Steve, I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. I can't hear you again. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you
Now
go.
can you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you can. Anyway, yeah, questions are super important to ask, and not only how you ask, but what you ask. It's
Yes.
really what the basis of relationships is.
Every relationship, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what relationship it is, it's so powerful, it impacts the outcome dramatically. How we ask the question, so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to say hi to a few people. Hey Darla, hi Tamari, Carolyn watching from the hospital. Oh my goodness, well, good for you, girl. Glad that knee got replaced for you. Hi Yvonne. Welcome everybody. So we're going to talk through a few questions that we are going to pose to one another, but let's start with why questions are so powerful.
They really just they frame everything.
Yeah.
From the way we ask. I mean, they shape the direction of any conversation.
Yes.
You can ask leading questions, you can ask open questions, and you get two completely different responses.
Absolutely. You can also say this is a yes or no question. All I
Mhm.
want is a yes or a no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Go ahead. Talk to us about what happens on the other end, how people can hear that, because it really is about their attention, their beliefs, the filters that they're coming into this with, and ultimately the destiny of our lives. So,
Yeah. I mean, we were when you're in a high control religion, the only questions you can have are ones that are appropriate. You can't ask open-ended inquiry questions, curiosity questions. Those are completely dismissed, not allowed. That'll get you shut down quicker than anything. Don't be curious.
nope.
And one of the most powerful things you can do with questions is to be curious. It's a word we use a lot when we talk. Curiosity is such a way to open up the world to you, really. Just how others think, what other views are. We live from the lens of our own childhood, our own upbringing, everything around us, and we tend to ask questions from that lens. And often those questions are fairly closed questions. You agree with that, right? You understand that, right?
Yep.
Um, they're not like what's how do you feel about that?
Right. Totally different. I have learned in my life that when I learned how to ask better questions, I got completely different answers. And so that's why I think this is so important for people is if you really truly want the connection, you want to drill down on whether or not you are able to influence your outcome, the or influence or control the outcome of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Asking the right questions makes all the difference in the world. Mardell's saying yes, struggle to watch with tone. Tone makes everything. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about tone. We're going to talk about a lot of tone, but mostly we really just wanted to frame this on it's a new way of thinking. It's a new way of stopping. I have often going into high stake dialogues written down my questions in advance.
Yeah.
Do you ever do that?
I have. I've started to more and more.
Yeah.
It becomes really powerful. Yeah. to kind of know the right questions. Because
Yes.
oftentimes in the heat of the moment, we don't ask good questions.
Nope.
Sometimes our questions are more reactive to what we hear. But to be able to sit down and, know the questions and know how to present them. We talked just the other day. We're responsible for what we say and how we say it, tone, not responsible for how it's heard. And same goes for questions.
Definitely. Let's talk about a good question versus a bad question.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
The bad questions are the easy ones. They're leading, they're closed, there's an assumption of the answer already there. They're designed to make a person defensive, and they're usually through the lens of ourselves. And often a bad question will put a person in a situation where at first they have to defend the fact that no, they aren't feeling what you just questioned. No, I'm not grumpy today. So then there's a conversation about no, your question was incorrect. So you got to clean that up. And then you can talk about what's really going on. So in a very simple term, it could just completely derail what should have been a really authentic conversation.
Right.
And maybe you can talk about a good one.
A good one, in my opinion, is where we literally are focused on where they're coming from. We're stopping to put ourselves into their shoes. We're looking for understanding. We're looking for growth. We're looking to move it forward. We're not just uh, shooting the crap with somebody. We're literally saying, I want to understand you better. So your intention says, I want to understand you better. Your tone says, I want to understand you better. How you ask the question is, I am asking a question because I'm genuinely interested in your answer. That
Yeah.
to me is a good question. When the other
Yeah. And that
person,
really,
yeah,
go ahead.
nope, that's it.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say that really is the crux of it is a good question is asked with the intent of understanding. A bad
Yes,
question is wanting somebody else to understand our point of view. And questions are
absolutely.
phrased that way.
Yes. Let me give you an example. A bad question would be coming in and saying, who is responsible for this mess?
Right.
A better question might be, what can we learn from what just happened? And now what do we do? What
Yeah.
happens next? Two
Yeah.
very different approaches to a horrible mess. But you're going to get two very different responses from those two questions.
Yeah. Because, those bad questions just immediately put people's hackles up.
Yep.
Just immediately. Their defenses are up. Their fight or flight is up. Good questions don't do that.
Nope.
They just leave spaciousness for, whatever that person's thinking, feeling, wanting to share, whatever it is. There's spaciousness in a good question.
I feel like that leads directly into the next question, which is about how questions actually shape our relationships. Even in a job, I will say, if you have a job, it's from the interview all the way through your first day, and you're in training and you're asking questions. I mean, there's so many places that this is relevant because it sets the tone for everything. Those
It
first
does.
impressions get made in that first question. All of those things really make a huge difference. So you've already said curiosity, not assumptions. Let's talk about assumptions for a second, because
Yeah.
that's one of the downsides of relationship. And sometimes, maybe a lot of times, we ask questions because we have assumed that we know how they feel or what their answer is going to be or whatever. What do you
Yeah.
think about assumptions?
Well,
How does that?
that an assumptive question usually often begins with something like, how come you? Well, I already know how you are, in my mind. And instead of framing in a positive way of like, you know, help me. I want to understand what's happening or what you're feeling right now, instead of starting with how come you? Because
It's,
as soon as you hear that question come at you, well, what's your response? You're immediately wanting to fight.
yeah,
I am not that. That is not my feeling. And so yeah, questions really frame when they're assumptive. It really is a framework of I'm right and I know. and
Yes,
you need to prove otherwise, or you need to agree. And sure,
totally.
that just creates discord instantly.
Julie Trapp is saying some questions put us in a box. Once we're in that box, we can never get out. Absolutely. You've made your first
Absolutely.
impression, you've set the tone. And sometimes, I mean, you can earn trust over a long period of time and break it in one question.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not careful, you're absolutely right, Julie. Questions will put you in a box that you cannot get out of. And then people wonder in their relationships, why are we so stuck? Or why do we keep. Here's the thing, I have a little rule in my life that I don't like to have the same conversation more than 3 times with somebody. So if we're having a question and I say, okay, I need you to help me understand why this dialogue is still necessary. We've gone over it 3 different times. I would like to understand what's changed
Hmm.
because I don't want to have the same damn conversation over and over and over. I refuse to, Steve.
No,
I won't. And
no,
so,
I'm the same way. I've never put a limit on it like you have, but that's a really good point.
oh, three's my limit.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it.
Mine
Not like,
probably is internally. I've just never paid attention to it.
oh, I mentally have some kind of counter. I don't know
Yeah.
where it
Yeah.
comes from, but I got one. And granted, some people get a little bit more grace on that, but not a lot. Like, I literally will not have the same conversation over and over and over. It's not productive. It's a total waste of my time, and I'm not going to do it. So here's the thing, we have to understand that the person listening is not going to listen if we just keep asking. It's like beating a drum
Hmm.
or hitting your head against a wall and it hurts and you think it's going to stop hurting at some point. It's not. You
Yeah.
got to change the question.
Yeah.
If you really want that relationship to change, you got to change the question.
Yeah. Because if you're asking, really good curiosity questions and you're just getting stonewalled time after time, that's a person that probably wants to promote their agenda, their way of viewing things, and often they're not going to change. Or you try other questions, you try other approaches, always in a really authentic, curious way. But there are a lot of people. I mean, we see it in overseers. They're not going to change.
Exactly. We've been having that conversation for 2 weeks now, getting ready for this big show today. They're not going to change. So
No.
we're not asking questions anymore. What we're doing now is just delivering the evidence. Okay. We're done with questions. We're not going to answer. We've asked them every which way possible. So now it's on the people. So that's
Yep.
how we're going to go with that. But here's the thing. That's the next question I wanted to get to. When people stop asking questions, you better understand that they're done.
Yes.
That's the end of the road.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not a good place to be in a relationship.
Uh-uh.
And it happens. That becomes apathy. And often you hear the opposite of love is not really hate, it's apathy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Questions have a tendency to be disruptive. They have a tendency to be either way, even if they're curious and even if they're good questions, they can still be disruptive because I don't know, sometimes a good question can still reveal some harsh truths.
Absolutely. It's poking, it can be poking in a good way, it can be poking a narrative that doesn't want to be poked. And again, that can be institutionally, it can be relationally.
Yes. It can be at a job when you have a horrible
Yeah.
boss or whatever it is. Like if you have a boss and you stop asking questions, they probably should know that you're done. You're not
Yeah.
going to be there much longer. And that's
That
just a
boss,
human.
that boss obviously, honestly, commonly isn't aware enough to know the difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So whenever we're challenging something that is certain, so for example, high control religion, not allowed to challenge. When you do start challenging that, it's the illusion of certainty. So that's
Yeah.
why questions are so important. When
Yeah.
you start asking questions, that's why they're not allowed in high control churches, or high control anything. If you have a boss that's super controlling, if you have a spouse that's super controlling, if you have a mother or a father that thinks that it's their job to run your life, guess what? You're not allowed to ask questions. You're not
No,
that's certainty. This is what we do and how we do it.
no.
So you got to really expose a contradiction in that question if you want to challenge that certainty, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. And the difficulty is a lot of times in those dynamics, questions are scary. They have, authentic questions have consequences.
Yes.
Again, how we were often mostly raised, that questions did have consequences.
Right.
So to break yourself out of that dynamic and ask questions and to be curious, just like I'd like to know more about that. I need help me understand how that works. Whatever it is, be curious,
Yes.
because there's a whole world out there that we weren't allowed to be exposed to.
There is. So, in doing this work, I will tell you, it's something that I've kind of done for a long time, but I do it way more now. Sometimes, because I do understand where a lot of people are coming from in this high control, and it doesn't really matter. I apply it to all areas of my life.
Yeah.
This is what I will say back to people sometimes when they ask me a question, when I know that they don't have the skills to ask the question differently, but I hear what they're really asking. This is how I respond. I want to warn you that if you ask me a question, you need to be prepared for the answer because you need to know, I am going to answer the question authentically. And if you're not ready for that answer yet, you might want to reframe the question or wait until later to ask
Good
the
point.
question.
There's a lot of questions. Yeah, people don't want the real answer.
They don't. That's why I feel like the power of the question, it's part of what I have a little series that I do called Owning Your Shit. And it's just that, though. It's owning the fact that, you know what? You asked the question and you got the answer. You may not like the answer. So you got to own the fact that you asked the question.
Yeah.
So it's learning the power of your words and how you use them is literally life-changing.
It so is. Words have so much weight. Questions have weight. Everything in every way we communicate. It can be so life-changing.
Yeah.
When you really start to apply it.
Right. Yeah.
And we're all afraid to.
Okay, let's talk about that. That fear that people have about, okay, here's the other thing I think that sometimes people don't ask questions because if they got the answer that they don't want, they would have to do something about it.
Correct. Yeah, I think we see a lot of that. I mean, you see it in poor marriages. People don't ask because you don't want the answer. You see it, in the church we came from. You don't ask questions because once you hear the answer that is there, but you're not able to ask the question, that answer is going to make you look at yourself, your life. It just takes one little crack. And all of a sudden you get that answer. And if you hear that, your life is going to shift and you're going to start asking more questions. So weirdly, we self-censor from even asking open, real, authentic questions because we don't want the answer. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to face the reality of what's really going on in our lives. So sometimes the scariest thing we can do is actually ask a real question.
Yes. Yes. That leads me to questions that destroy communication. Here's the point on that. When you already know, like this is why I feel like preparing for really hard conversations ahead of time is so important.
Mm-hmm.
If they've already clarified in 5,000 different ways that they don't care, leading with don't you care as another question, like it's what I talk about all the time. Like we're hanging on to some kind of hope. We do it in marriages. We do it in relationship all the time. You're holding on to hope that they're going to change. Don't you care? Well, no, they don't care. Instead of asking a question, make a statement. You clearly don't care.
Correct. Because they will tell you they do care.
Yes. But
every time.
But when they don't,
right.
Just skip the crap. Okay.
Right. Just lay it out there.
Yeah. Because what you're really doing is further destroying the relationship when you, again, keep beating the drum. Don't you care? Don't you care? Don't you care? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why are you always like this? Why are you always like this?
Don't you
Instead,
see? Can't you see?
yeah,
Yeah.
why can't you see? It's so the question is, so this is how to reframe that. I believe that someday you will get to the conclusion that's right for you on your own. I want you to know in the meantime, I'm here and that I love you where you're at.
That is great. And I think a lot of people need to, there's a lot of families where one's in, one out, or other family members. That's a really good way to phrase that for them.
When you hammer
Because,
them, it just puts them on the defensive all the
yeah,
time. They can't hear you. And then it becomes heels in, head down. When you soften and
yeah,
start to love them and let them find their way, you will be amazed how much quicker and how much better the outcome will be.
yeah. It's just a matter of being able to love people where they're at. Because when we leave, we want people to love us on our path and where we're at. Then we turn around and want them to follow our exact path to leave. And yet we're not willing to love them where they're at.
Exactly.
And softening and learning to do that is a huge, like you say, it takes all the tension out. It
Yes,
brings softness back into the relationship.
it does. Cynthia and I were having this conversation the other day that, in our own marriages, if all of a sudden I became a completely different person, I look completely different, dress completely different, act completely different, especially for women, and the
Hmm.
guy still goes to meeting, like without going to therapy and without some serious work on that relationship, um, what do you expect they're going to react
Yeah.
with? Especially when
Yeah.
at the same time you're hammering on their head, like, "What's wrong with you? How come you're not?" Blah blah blah.
Yeah. It brings up a lot of loss and abandonment for that other person. They
Yes.
don't, they have no idea who this new person is
No.
and what's happening, what's going on. Was this person going to leave? There's a
Yes.
huge amount of loss that they're dealing with.
Yes. It's
And
so
just the
tragic.
reassurance that I'm still here.
Yes.
I'm valuing your path. I'm seeing you where you're at, but we're still here. Yeah, it's the softening that makes all the difference.
It does. I want to work through this. I want to grow together. I want to learn together. I want to understand what's keeping you stuck or keeping you where you're at. Don't say stuck.
No.
Don't say stuck. Take that
Uh,
back.
right now we are on different paths, and I want to
Yeah.
acknowledge that. And
Yeah.
it's okay. And how can I help you walk the path you want to without interfering?
Yes. It goes more along the lines of, what am I missing? What
Yeah,
is it about where you're at that I'm still missing?
yeah,
I've made my choice to do what I'm going to do. Or what do you need right now? Like, maybe they just need you to leave them alone. Maybe they just need you to
yeah.
give them some space. Maybe they just need you to shut up.
But the biggest thing is don't assume what they need.
Exactly.
They don't need a lot of words telling what they need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
but yeah.
And
That question, what do you need right now from me?
yes,
How can I help you? What can I do for you?
life changing,
Yeah,
relationship changing. That builds connection, that is growth oriented, that builds respect. I think a lot of what we have been dealing with, particularly in the high control situation we've been in, is that respect is gone
no, there
between
is no
partners.
respect.
There's no respect on either side. And so now what? Like, the sooner we can acknowledge the lack of respect instead of keeping hitting our head against the wall and pretending like it's going to change someday, that's the holding on the hope. And that's what makes us crazy. If it
Yes.
ever does change, then figure it out, pivot later. But don't think for 1 second that you're going to get to just stay on those rails and you're going to arrive at that destination, like I talked about the other day. And they're going to go, woo, woo, you have arrived, because
No, no. Being a hopeaholic is one of the worst things you can do.
yes,
It doesn't come true that way.
yes,
Acceptance, understanding where you're at, understanding where they're at, and being
yes,
okay with it.
yes. One of the things that I talk a lot about is honesty. Honesty is hard. And
Yeah.
coming out of, I think it's hard for everybody in the world. I think it's even harder when you have trained from the time you were born, conceived maybe, to be duplicitous.
Yes.
Um, and by that, we just mean having a double life of this is what you do when people are watching, and this is what you do behind, on your
Yeah.
own time or whatever. But the thing that I want to say about that is learning to say, to build the confidence, I think, is instead of asking the question, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Why am I doing, it's more about learning to say, how can I grow from this experience? How can I learn and do better? Because if you always do what you always done, you're going to always get what you always got. I say that
Yeah.
all the time. And
Yeah. It's more
so
about self-examination instead of self-flagellation. And,
there, you nailed it.
that's what we were taught, but really looking at what can I change? What can I do better for myself? Where can I grow?
Right.
Not
And it's
and not
taking,
where can my spouse grow? That's their that's for them.
how can my boss stop being such a jerk? How can my kids
Yeah.
do what I tell them to do, even though they're 47 years old and have their own grandchildren? Um, you know, like, again, it's putting that distance and the boundary into place and saying, you know, I am responsible to you, not for you. This is my life, and
Yeah.
I'm going to live it my way. And I don't know it when you challenge the norm. That's where it gets hard, I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, anytime you start challenging the way it's always been.
Yes.
And I mean, everybody kind of lives in the way it's always been.
Yeah.
It's not easy to change the status quo of whatever situation, whether it's work or home or your church, or it's changing status quo takes work. It takes authenticity. It takes honesty with yourself.
Start there.
Let's start there. And that's a really hard one.
It is. Nobody wants to admit if they're being a jerk or they're being defensive or they're being mean or whatever it is. But I would also say that we live habitually, and I don't think it's just in meeting. I mean, certainly we did in
Yeah,
in that church, but I think in general, the average person in the world lives habitually. This is what you get
true.
up, the time you get up, this is what you do, this is how you drink your coffee, this is where you go, these are the people you see. And so making one little tweak, this is what I think a lot of people don't understand. They try to change everything at one time instead of just like making a little tweak. Here's what I would say. We started with this topic because we agreed together that changing the questions that you're asking will be all the tweak you need to
Yeah.
shift your life. Stop worrying about what should I be doing, all that kind of stuff. Just start asking different questions. You will get a very clear answer very quickly on what the status of your marriage is, what the status of your children's relationship is, status of your job, status, all of it.
Yeah. And I think you hit on a little bit is like the self-reflection part, the questions for yourself.
Yes.
Why does this trigger me? What am I afraid might happen? What
Yes.
story am I telling myself? All these little things, sometimes before we can ask better questions of others, it's probably safer and better to start asking better questions of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Find our own authenticity, find our real self. What would I do if fear wasn't making this decision?
Yeah.
But it just takes little things internally can make a big difference eventually externally. You're right. You don't have to eat the whole elephant at once.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I think one of the other tools that I teach people is being honest with yourself about the situation. Can you control
Yeah.
it or can you influence it? If you have zero control over it, zero, and nobody is going to listen to you and your influence. I mean, we live in a world of influencers now. Just be honest with yourself. Honestly, if you cannot do either one of those things, you are literally beating your head against a wall. You need to shift your expectations of whatever it is. You need to find a different way or a different outlet to say, okay, and I will think I'm using the example of this church. A lot of people say, oh, they just keep asking the same question, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That's why until we start working together and build this army together and put the responsibility on the people, because the overseers have spoken,
Yeah.
they're not going to change.
Their answers are not changing. We know where they stand.
Yeah, totally.
So why are we still asking questions?
Yeah. back off, just do what you're going to do in your own meetings, in your own whatever, if you're going to stay in.
Yep.
And if you're going to, like, stop thinking that they're going to become someone that they're not. They've made their choice.
They have spoken. They've showed us who they are. It
Yeah,
is time to believe them.
it is.
And like you're doing in the show tonight, show them the facts.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the other problem on the self-reflection piece. Daryl's saying I now schedule 10 minutes a day for self-reflection. Yes, I have a little rule in my house. If I until I emerge from that room, do not anything me. Um, but you know what everybody in my life has learned for the last 20 years that I've been living that way? If they give me that time in the beginning of the day, I will come out a much nicer, better person.
Sure.
If you come
Yeah.
in and start coming at me when I haven't had my coffee and I haven't had my time to set my intentions for the day and clarify where I'm at and check in with myself to know what my bandwidth is going to be today, because sometimes I've got a lot of bandwidth and sometimes I don't have any.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have
It's
to,
like we need to have our emotional face on,
yes,
all ready to go, be in the right space to face the world.
yes,
And each of us has our own way of needing to do that, or
yeah,
the way we do it. But yeah,
we
it's
do.
important.
Okay, but here's the thing that I was going to say that's so important. I believe that most people in the world, especially if they come out of a high control church, but I think people in general, in that self reflection, have to first learn how to stop being so critical of themselves.
Yes.
Honesty is important, but beating yourself to a pulp and how horrible you are and how you messed it up and you didn't do it right and you don't look right and you're too fat and you're too skinny, whatever it is, that self reflection cannot be a session of WWE on steroids with you, yourself, and you.
No, it can't be. And that's, yeah, it's a place to be honest with yourself, real with yourself, a little more authentic. It's not time for self-flagellation.
No,
It's like, what can I do different? You know?
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
To
like,
get
what
it.
do I believe? What do I want? What are my desires? Who am
Yes.
I if I have no, no walls around me, so to speak?
Yes.
Who do I want to be?
Yes. And that is very hard. I will tell you, in my marriage, my husband had the same job for 25 years, worked for AT&T as a lineman. It was a massive, not only did he retire and move here at the same time, it was like this whole, like, you know, retirement for a lot of people is the same thing. They don't have that job to go do. They lose their purpose. They lose their what,
Yep.
like, it's a whole process. Or you leave a marriage, or you whatever it is, where freedom is a part of it. And at first it's like woohoo, and then it's like, oh shit.
Yep, totally. And I think your point is good that leaving a high control religion is kind of like leaving a marriage.
It is.
There's a huge loss. There's a huge vacuum. There's a
Yes.
void that we don't know what to put in there. We don't even know the questions to ask to help figure out what to put in that void. In either way, in divorce from a church or a person, it's the same kind of situation you're in. There's a lot of grief. There's a lot of healing needs to be happen, and there's just a lot of absolute unknown. And I've often likened that to like jumping off the cliff in the dark. You just don't know what's out there, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
And now you've jumped, and it's like, now what do I do? And
Yeah.
I think that's where these self-reflective questions start coming in.
I totally
Because
agree.
once we get more honest with ourselves, then it's easier to get more honest, open, authentic questions with others.
Hmm.
But it really does start with ourselves.
Well, being honest with ourselves and having that self reflection gives us the opportunity to then hear. Even if
Yeah.
you ask the questions, if you haven't done your own work and you're not taking care of yourself, you can't even hear what somebody has to say.
No.
I can say that I don't think that my message has really changed over the last 2.5, 3 years that I've been blah blahing about all this. But I do think that people are hearing me a little differently now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because they've been doing their work. They've been on the
Yeah.
other side of it. I had a conversation with somebody a couple days ago, and they were like, I am literally so depressed because I'm not in fight or flight now. Most of us, and it can be true in a marriage, it can be true in a job, it can be true
Mm-hmm.
when you're in a high control church. So many of us are constantly on high alert. hypervigilance, flight or flight for so long. And so when you don't have that, what we just talked about, that vacuum, what ends up happening in that vacuum is boredom.
Yeah. And your body doesn't know what to do with all that
Your nervous
external
system's going,
stimulation.
I'm getting too much oxygen, man. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel strange. And it goes straight to depression, though.
Yes.
It leads to this. So, this is what I want to say, it's a natural cycle. I want
Yeah.
to reassure people that that is part of it. That it's kind of like if you go to nature, the spring's all alive, summer happens, things blossom, then fall happens. It's like we're in a fall. We're in a, like, the falling away, the leaves are falling, it's getting cool, the nights are longer, days are shorter. Then you're going
Yeah.
to hibernate for a while, and then you're going to come out with a whole new season.
Exactly. And it's scary to be in that winter season.
It is.
It's like
It's
a drop.
lonely.
It's an
It's dark
emotional
and
drop.
lonely.
And yet it's the decompression that we have to have.
Yes. You can't
But
skip
yeah,
over it.
it can be a tough, really tough period. But
Yeah.
that's also a good time to start good self-reflection, good questions of yourself to find your truth, find your authenticity.
Yes.
Who am I? I mean, that's the big one.
You and I talk about this a lot between us, but it's what comes next, what comes after.
Yeah.
All where we're at right now, I feel like that the pendulum is swinging to the point that we are starting now to ask the question as a community of people, what's next?
Yes. Yeah,
What's
because there's been 3 years of craziness coming out of the high control, and now, yeah, people are in a place like, what do I do now? Who am I going to be? What is life going to look like outside of when really everything in your life is controlled?
Yeah.
It's a little bit like getting out of prison. What do I do? Who am I?
Yes. Daryl's saying it was a huge big step to finally be okay with being completely lost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I want to say. You're not lost alone. Like that, everybody that's in that valley right now of just like being lost, we're all feeling, not we all, we're here to help. But we were there once.
Right.
We were there once. So the other question that I think goes along with all of this is coming out the other side. And instead of asking, why did that happen to me? And why did they have to be that way? And blah, 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 the real question is, and this is the brutally honest part, there's not really a nice way to say it. You have to start asking yourself, what am I going to do with what happened to me? Not why did it happen? Not who are they? Blah, blah, blah. That's blame thinking. If you really want to move forward, you have to change the question to what am I going to do now with what did happen to me?
Yeah, because in an unfortunate way, life does happen. Terrible things happen in life. And this is one of them. It's not something we can control at this point. You can't change it. Acceptance. It did happen. That is the church we came out of. But yes, what am I going to do with it now?
Yeah. I feel like that is the difference between having a victim mentality and becoming the author of your own life.
Yeah. Yeah, we've often talked about, even with the child sex abuses, victims and survivors. One is a victim, one can grow into being a survivor. What am I going to do with my life now? How am I going to be in control of my life again? Right. And it's the same coming out of spiritual abuse, religious, emotional abuse, same thing.
Well, here's the other thing that I think the whole damn world is waking up. I don't think it's just us. I don't think it's just coming out of the 2x2 worker church. I really believe that the entire universe is starting to wake up. And so for those of you who are out there wondering what's going to happen next, I am here to tell you there's a lot of opportunity in the world for connection. There's a lot of opportunity in the world for helping other people get where they're going. You and I are both life coaches. We work with a lot of different people. And the reason that we do that is because we're able to help people move forward a whole lot faster. And it's very rewarding work for me. I don't want to speak
very
for
much,
but
very much.
It's very, very rewarding. And it's because there is so much opportunity out there. So I think that helping to just brainstorm through what's next, because everybody's coming at this like exploring what your gifts are. Those are some questions. What are my gifts? What was I born to be? What am I born to do? What am I really, really good at? What am I really, really not good at? Um, and you can apply it to whatever stage of life you're in, even if you're in retirement. You
Yeah.
don't have to just, you can replace, granted, that's partly why we've replaced some of the hours that we used to go to meetings with things like this to help people just have something that they can do instead as an alternative to reframe things for them. But yeah, you get it. Okay, let's talk for a second about ego because we're getting ready to run out of time. We're going to make these 45 minutes, people. We're going to try to do that. We both like to talk, so keeping our mouths shut is going to be hard. Talk for a second about what role ego plays in all that.
Yeah. Ego in questions, it's just a way to keep our narrative because we are all attached to our own narrative. Whether we want to be or not, we are just attached to our narrative. Whether it's an institution, the workplace, your boss, yourself, your spouse, we are all attached to our own narrative because that's what keeps us feeling good.
We want what we want, Steve.
That's right. So we want to ask questions that support that narrative.
Yeah,
That's really all the ego is. But what would it look like if we can ask questions that understand somebody else's narrative?
exactly.
That's really where true connection comes.
Amen, brother, because this is what I was going to say. Wisdom, ego asks questions to defend itself. Wisdom asks questions to discover truth. Ego wants confirmation. Wisdom wants understanding.
Yeah.
Again, it's just everything we've been talking about. But I think I have several friends that have, well, I'll speak for myself. I spent years in ego, years overachieving, super successful, ego, ego, ego. Look at me, what I did, blah, blah, blah. I had awards out the yin yang. My walls were covered with plaques. Um, but then it's always like the next thing, you know?
Right.
My life has never been more rewarding and happier than my feet in the dirt, sitting with my goats with a brush in my hand. Like that, because it's connection.
Exactly.
That is the difference in how we live. And I think that we had the illusion of connection, the illusion of community in the church that we came out of, but it wasn't real, which is why we're all floundering. Like that's why the whole like, but we're
That's
building
forced
now.
connection,
Building,
forced community. It's
yes,
like having to be friends with everybody at work. We
yes,
don't necessarily
exactly.
want to be. It's a forced one. But when you can find authentic ones, yeah, community and relationships are so different and
Yes.
way more rewarding.
Oh my goodness. And the ability to be me, like for myself. Some days I show up with a hat on because I can't control my animals or whatever happened, you know? But there was a time in my life that I would have never. I would have postponed the show, said I can't do the show, I'm sick or whatever.
Right?
Now I'm just gonna put my hat on, no makeup, whatever.
It don't matter
It doesn't matter.
because what matters is you show up.
Yes.
And
And
that's
I
kind of what getting rid of the ego is. It's more just about showing up.
yes. That you just nailed it. It is all about showing up. And I think that that's uh we all want something real. I mean, especially again, the whole world. We have AI now. We have things that, and they're great tools. But if you
Yep.
let them run your life, it's like having an overbearing mother. I'm
That's a
sure
great way to put it.
it's
Yeah.
true. And it'll lead you down a rabbit hole that you're like, what the? Yeah, no, you are in charge of your AI tool. You can train it. It's amazing. Watch a few videos on how to train your AI. You'll be shocked. Um,
And to segue off that, you are in charge of your life now, finally.
yes,
That's a difficult one
yes,
to be in charge of it yourself and not have an institution run your life.
yes. It's so hard. Speaking of the institution running your life, why are questions discouraged so badly? How does that lead to control and high control religions? Talk for a second
Oh,
about.
that's a whole show by itself.
That.
It goes back to the narrative.
Yes.
Questions questions go against the narrative. Anytime there's questions, it challenges the narrative. And the narrative only holds up with no questions. And we've seen that. People ask questions. I've seen for years, 25 years since I left, almost, that I would see somebody ask one question about something in the religion. And I just knew they were out. I didn't know when, but I knew they were out. And sure enough, months, years later, but it only took one question and that person would find their way out.
It's just this chink, chink, chink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it numerous times, and it was always kind of fun to watch. I didn't have to say anything, but you heard the question, you're like, they're on their way.
It redistributes the power, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it takes away the power. It's like a house of cards that you pull one little card out with a question. The whole thing starts getting rickety and starts tumbling down. And
Diane is saying, huge walls crumbled around me in a very short time. What I believed was a wonderful marriage and community were both gone. It's so beautiful on this side of pretty tough and lonely months. It does take very honest self-reflection. Thank you for shedding light on us. Yes, I want to honor that, Diane. I really do. I want to honor anybody out there that this has happened to. But you know what? Bless you for figuring it out on the other side and being here listening even today. I can tell you, Diane, that what's going to happen on the other side of this is you're going to help somebody else through it when they need it most. You're going to be able to say, you will get through this.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a couple final questions and then we're going to try to start wrapping this up. What question should every leader ask? I don't care if they're a 2x2 leader, a boss, the leader of a family. Talk for a second about what question every leader should ask.
A real leader is somebody that helps. And I think the right question to ask is, how can I help those I'm leading? What would be beneficial to all, not beneficial to me? And that goes back to workplace. It goes back to marriages, goes back to institutions. It's what's for the greater good.
Amen. I say it by saying, who bears the cost of my decisions?
Yes.
That's the filter. That's the question. If any lead, if you're a mom, if you're whatever it is, whatever, you may not see yourself even as a leader, but I think even in life, when I started asking myself, who bears the cost of my decisions, I became a very different leader.
Absolutely.
Very, very, very different.
Yeah. You start seeing in an authentic way, you start seeing the consequences of your decisions.
Yes. And it's humbling. You want to talk about humbling? Oh, when you start owning the fact that what you did caused that ripple effect, I'm telling you, it's generational. It's unbelievable.
Oh, it is. And because it's generational, it's a lot of work to unpack.
It is.
It's not something you just do in a week or so.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime of unpacking, but it gets easier.
It does.
But it is work.
It is work. Okay, I want to leave people with some life-changing questions for themselves. I have a little list. You might have a list too, but I'm going to go down mine. You can go down yours, and then we're going to do last word. Here are some life-changing questions for anybody that's out there listening. I don't care what area of your life that you're in. Here's some things that have been life-changing for me. First of all, what if I am wrong? Answer that very honestly with yourself. What if I am wrong? Number two, what evidence would change my mind? That tells you how tied to the narrative you really are. If you have your head in the sand, it doesn't matter how much evidence somebody presents. You're not going to change your mind. And that's where they're at on the other side of this dialogue. But what evidence would change my mind? And if you're honest about that, maybe nothing. I don't know. But be honest with yourself about that. That leads into the next one. What am I pretending not to know? So back to Diane. I don't know about you. Wasn't in your circumstances. I will tell you from my divorces. I've had a couple. What am I pretending not to know? It's you go on and you would just keep hoping, that hopeaholic thing, even though down deep, but you just keep pretending that you don't know, but you know. Same with your job. Why are you hanging on to a job that literally belittles you, makes you feel whatever it is? Like, stop pretending. So, what is it that you're pretending you don't know? What belief am I protecting? What would I do if fear wasn't making the decision? You already said that one. I'm going to repeat that one. What would I do if fear wasn't making this decision? And what matters most to me 5 years from now?
It's a good one.
Do you have anything you want to add?
You know, one of my favorite questions is always in really trying to communicate with somebody is tell me more about that. Because there's always more. There's no better way to find understanding from somebody than ask more about it. And we typically don't. We typically listen for the spot we can respond rather than listening for more information. And I don't really have other questions, but I had some thoughts I wrote down of, you know, the goal of communication is not to win. It's not to prove we're right. It's not to convince somebody that they need to think like us. The real goal in questions and communication is understanding. So if you keep that focus of, let me ask questions so that we both understand better, we're going to go a long ways.
I love that. I love that. Um, Questions aren't signs of weakness, they're acts of courage, everybody. Let
Yep.
me tell you, the people most likely to grow, heal, and find truth are not those with all the answers. They're those brave enough to keep asking better questions. I
Yep.
just feel like that is so important. We're going to wrap this up. Does anybody have any questions for us today? Otherwise, we haven't fully decided on this, but we kind of almost went with gossip today. Maybe we'll talk about gossip next week because it's kind of in line, but you know, gossip changes everything,
It does.
especially in the world we came out of.
And usually in a bad way.
It does, but you know what? It's something that we all do, and it's so harmful. So, helping
Yeah.
to understand um, the harm we're doing, it goes back to all the assumptions and all the stuff you talked about earlier. So, all right. Anything else you want to add the last word? Otherwise, we're going to let everybody go, and we'll see you all this afternoon. Super
Yeah.
important show, 5:30 to 7:30. Special show. Don't want to miss that. It's going to be a good one.
It will.
Thank you, my friend.
You bet. Good to see you again.
You too, always. And I will see you next Wednesday at the same time, 11 a.m. live, everybody. Have a good one.
Be here.